Okay, good morning and welcome to Just Daf It as part of the Greater Yeshiva YouTube. Today we're doing the third to last Daf in the Nedarim, Daf It number 89. Let's start from the bottom of Pechanam and base the Mishnah, 3 lines from the bottom. Neder Almana Grusha Yakum Alea. It says that a woman who she's an Almana, her husband died, or she's a Grusha, her husband's divorced. She has no recourse for Afaras in the Nedarim. She has no recourse. She has to be mater or nether. Ketza, for example, Amra Harini Nazir La'achar Shloshim Yom. She's out Nazir. Another is a net type of a nether. After 30 days, he wants her Nazir to start in 30 days. I'm not ready yet. In 30 days, I'll be ready. Even though she actually gets married within those 30 days, but the utterance of her nether came before her marriage. The Mishnah says you can't be made for the nether, right? Just so we learn. Right after the marriage ends, she's widowed or divorced. Right, if she's a Bulgaris, right, or she's been previously married and divorced. So, when she took the nether, she wasn't married. So therefore, the husband can't be made for it. Ain't no Baal made for Bekodman, right? Also, he can't be made for him during the shtuk before the marriage. Pay Teram and Olive on the top. Nadrav he Bershus Habal. Let's say she took a nether, she took a Nazirus when she's in the rishus in the domain of her husband. Mayfair law, he could be Mayfair. Ketza. I'm already Nazir la'achar. I'm a Kabbalah Nazirus, but I only wanted to start after 30 days. I'll pitch the Salmon knows Garsha even though after 30 days she's already divorced or widowed, right? Presumably because of her taking Nazirus when her husband wasn't too happy. As long as he's Mayfair, probably has to be Mayfair before they dissolve the marriage. Of course, he can't be Mayfair after you dissolve the marriage, even though the Nazirus didn't take effect yet. He could be moved for Nadra Boba Yom. Now the Mishnah seems to be, according to all opinions, like Mara will have a machlokas, seemingly should affect this Mishnah, but the Gemara is going to resolve that everyone can agree with our Mishnah. Nadra Boba Yom, she took a nether during the day when she's married. Even Nisgarshu Boba Yom, right? She got married, she took a nether, she got divorced that day. Hechzir Boba Yom, and she got remarried. He went to the same guy that day. Eno Yochel Hafer, he can't be Mayfair. Once she's divorced or widowed for a second, so even if she gets remarried, even married to him or remarried to somebody else, it can't be Mayfair because the nether, even though it's within 24-hour period, it's blocked once the hafara, it's makuyim, it's affirmed once the marriage ends. Gemara says, Tanya, Amon of Grusha Sham Harin Nazir Kshaynase Venises. It's a little different than our Mishnah. Our Mishnah says takes this years after 30 days. Here she says she's not married yet, but she was previously married. She's a Bulgaris, we'll talk about. So she's on one of a Grusha. She said, I'm going to become a Nazira when I get married. Venises. And then she got married, meaning she stipulated my Nazirus is Chal once I become married. Rabbi Shmuel Omer. Shmuel says Yafer. Right? They get married. Now she's in the Rishus of the husband. He could be made for the nether. Rabbi Akiva Omer Yafer. He says he can't be made for in that case. V'simana Yalali. Yalali sounds like a song of 8th day. Yalili. Maybe that's where they got it from. It's Gemara. This is a mnemonic for remembering the previous brisa and the continuation of this brisa. Eish is ish. The brisa continues. The Eish is she's married, a married woman. Shamar Harin Nazir that she has garish. I'll become a Nazir once I become divorced. When garish, she became divorced. Shmuel Omer Yafer. Shmuel says, right, obviously before the divorce, he can't be Mayfair. Rabbi Akiva Omer Yafer, he can be Mayfair before they get divorced. Amar Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel's proof is Harei Omer V'neder Alman of a Grusha. It says, right, Neder Alman of a Grusha, Neder of an Alman or a Grusha Yakum Aleh. It'll be affirmed automatically. Ad Shehei Neder B'Shas Alman is V'Gerushin. The Neder has to take effect, right? B'Shas Gerushin, right? If she took the nether, right, her nether took effect. She said, I'm going to become a Nazir when I'm married, so it took effect during the marriage. It's all about when the Nazirs take effect. The Nazirs take effect after 30 days. After she gets Meguresha, she's Meguresha, she can't be made for. Actually, never shall say I'm on Gerushin. Rakiva Om Savar, Hari Omer Kosher Astra Al Nafsha Ache Isuri Nether B'Shas Almanas V'Gerushin. Right, Rakiva holds the opposite of Rabbi Shmuel. He says, right, in the first case, where she said, I'm a Nazira when I get married, so Rabbi Akiva says in that case, he can't be Mayfair. Right? The reason he can't be Mayfair, it says, the Isra of the Nether has to be B'Shas Almanas V'Gerushin. However, meaning when she took the nether upon herself. So therefore, she took the nether, the zeros before she made the utterance, right? Before she got married, so because you can't do it, right? When she made the utterance, right, before she got divorced, then he could be mefer. Amar Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda says, Masisin Rabbi Akiva here. Our Mishnah follows the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, right? Which immediately makes sense, right? Rabbi Akiva says it goes based on the utterance, right? When she uttered it. So therefore, if she uttered, she was proclaimed to be Nazira before she got married, after 30 days, and then she got married within those 30 days, and now she's married after 30 days, according to Rabbi Akiva. You can't be made for the nether. However, she took a Nazirus during the marriage, and then it ended, and the Nazirus took effect. She uttered the declaration to become a Nazir during the marriage, and then the Nazirus took effect after she got divorced. Right, so the utterance was during the marriage. So Rabbi Akiva says you can be made for her, like Rabbi Akiva's opinion. Does it go when the Nazirus take effect? Does it go when the actual nether was uttered? Amar Rav Chisda, this is Rabbi Akiva here. Abaye says no. Afilu Temer Rabbi Shmuel. You could even say Rabbi Shmuel would agree with our Mishnah. There's a difference in the Brisa and the Mishnah. The Mishnah is talking about, right? She says after 30 days I'm a Nazir, right? And the Brisa was talking about. She says when I become married I'll become a Nazir, or when I become divorced then I'll become a Nazir. Shalmo, so therefore in a Mishnah, Shalmo Yomei Velonis Garsha, Shalmo Yomei Nisnaspa. It's possible that after 30 days, right, she wouldn't become married, or after 30 days she won't become a Goreshes. Happens to be the case that she becomes Goreshes, but it's possible, right, that it won't happen. So even in that case, Rabbi Shmuel would agree, right, after 30 days, because after 30 days it's possible that it won't revolve around the Nisuin or the Gerushin. So therefore, he would agree that he would agree to Rabbi Akiva that you could be Mefer, right? You could be Mefer when it depends on the days, on the 30 days. Then it would go based on the utterance, right? Because it's only when you depend in the Nazirus on when I get married or when I get divorced. So then Rabbi Shmuel says, no, you have to go after the actual when the nether takes effect. But if it's based on days, so then obviously the days have nothing to do with marriage or gerushin, and therefore we would go after the utterance. Now, our Mishnah ends off. It says Zaklal. It says Zaklal. Zaklal usually is an inclusion, and it comes to add something that we wouldn't have necessarily thought. So before explaining our Mishnah, it goes back to when we started Perek Nara Murasa on Daf Sameches 20 blot ago. We talked about Zaklal. We never explained what is that coming to include. So let's go back for a second. Zaklal, the Ksani Gabi Nara Murasa, right? That once as she's Nara Murasa, she's engaged, right? Both her husband, her Arus, and the father made for together. Let's see. Comes to include what? We mentioned in Maseches Ksuvos, right? That at the chuppah, right? So it depends who's taking the girl down to the chuppah. So if the father went shluchei abal, right? The husband sent emissaries to go get his wife, and the father went with those emissaries. The father didn't himself go; he sent his emissaries to go with emissaries to the husband. So therefore, she's still considered to be until Masira. Once the father gives his daughter over to shluchei abal to walk her down the aisle, then that's already Nisuin, and therefore only the husband's mefer and not the father. So that comes to teach you that as long as the father hasn't given over, he's either going along with the shluchei abal or he appointed his own emissaries. So therefore, both the father retains ownership of her Nedarim partially. Zakal, it says in our Mishnah, even if the father gave over his daughter to the shluchei habal to go for marriage, or he gave it over to the baal, or the shluchei, the emissaries of the father, gave her over to the shluchei habal, in which case the father has no rishus. Nonetheless, if she takes nether at that point, it's still considered before the nisuin, and ain't a baal made for bakodman, like we learned. That's the basic thesis of the Mishnah. The baal can't be made for nedarim that happened before the exact marriage. He has to go have chuppah, where he takes her under the canopy, or under the canopy bed, as I like to say. Mishnah says Teisha naros nidrein kayamin. Now, This Mishnah is a little confusing, but it's really three cases. It's just, three cases, Shlosha, Shem, Teisha. There's three ways that a woman leaves the Rishos of her father and leaves the Rishos of her husband, and where no one can be made for her Nedarim, right? We just had a Mishnah, Nedar Alman of Grusha Yakomal now. So the three, just an introduction, the three basic ways that a woman could lose her option of a Faras Nedarim. Either one, she becomes a Bogeres, right? She becomes a Bogeres, right? Before she got married, she's a Bogeres. No one can be made for her Nedarim. Her father can't be made for her Nedarim. Or if she's a Nara and her father dies, right? And she's not married, so father can be made for Nedarim. Or the father's still alive. However, she got married and now she's divorced or widowed, right? So those are the three cases. When she's a Nara already, she got married and divorced. So therefore, she's already b'shus atzma, and therefore, until she gets married again, no one can be made for her. When she gets married, obviously the husband can be made for her. There's Teisha Naros Nedarim Kayamin. The Nedarim are Kayam automatically, and they have no recourse through Hafaras Nedarim. They have to go mat to the Nedar. What are they? Bogeres v'yisoma. So the first case we're going to talk about is where she gets married, right? She's a Bogeres v'yisoma. Yisoma doesn't mean she's an orphan, because her father's still alive. She's a Bogeres, she's an orphan, and the fact that she got divorced or widowed from her marriage. She's a Bogeres v'yisoma. She's a Bogeres. She's 18 years old. She got married, and then divorced. Or Nara or Bagra, or she got married as a Nara, as a 12-year-old girl, or a 17-year-old girl, and then she Bagra. V'yisoma. Yisoma doesn't mean that her father died. It means she's Yisoma. She lost her father. Yisoma chaya because she's divorced or widowed. Nara shelo Bagra. Nara shelo Bagra. V'yisoma. Or even if she got married as a Nara and she didn't even become a Bogeres, right? But she got divorced out of Naras. She doesn't go back to her father's house. No one can make for nether. Those are the first three cases, which are really one case. Bogeres, the next three cases. Bogeres Umesav is where her father actually died. She's a Bogeres. She didn't even get married. Her father died. Nara Bogeres, or she was a Nara. She took a nether, was she a Nara, and then she became a Bogeres. Umesav via. And before the father had a chance to be made for another, her father died. As Bogeres. Nara Shalo Bagro, Umesav via. Or even if she was a Nara, right? And she didn't become a Bogeres. She took a nether as a Nara, Mesa Via. No one can be made for a nether. She's a Nara. Nara, we'll talk about it as a Ktana in a second. Nara Shemesa Via, the third set of cases. A Nara, her father died. Umishemesa Via Bagra. Her father died. And then she became a Bogeres, right? And then she took a nether as a Bogeres. Bogeres Via Kayim. Or her father's still alive, she became a Bogeres, right? Or Nara Bogeres via Kayim, or she took there's a Nara, and then she became Bogeres. The fact that she becomes a Bogeres, once she's a Bogeres, her father loses the Rishus. That's the lesson in the last three cases. Or Yehuda Omer, Afa Mesi Bito Aktana ben his Amnos Garsha. He marries off his daughter as Aktana. Now there's different halachas. When you marry for your daughter as Aktana, you have the right to give your daughter as Aktana, to sell her to somebody, as an Amma Ivria, or Makadish, and take the money. And now she became widowed or divorced as a katana. V'chazra etzlo adayin hinara, and he goes back to her. Even right now, it's important to know when he goes back. She goes back to him. If right, she got divorced or widowed when she was already a nara. That's not what the Mishnah is talking about. I don't think, and I'll talk more about this in here in the Ben. I think we're talking about where she got married as a katana, as a 6-year-old girl, and then a year later, as a 7-year-old girl, her husband died. Even if she goes back to him till her Nara, till she's 12 years old, she goes back to her father's house, right? The reason it says she's Nara, like the Ran says over here, is because the Nedarim of Aktana are meaningless. There's no reason to be made for a Matar Nedar of Aktana. She's a Nara now, but she returned when she was Aktana. Rabbi Yehuda says, also that's the case, she's a Nara, since she got married already, now that's like one of the first three cases where by getting married, she already severed the relationship with her father can't be made for her Nedarim. The Gemara is Zamar Rabbi Yehuda Marav, Zudei Rabbi Yehuda. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. V'chal Armim Shalosh Naros Nizrein Kayamin Bogeres Yisom Yisom Mechayav. Meaning basically the summary of the three types of cases, right? Either she's a Bogeres, or Yisom, her father died, or Yisom Mechayav, meaning she got married and divorced as a Nara, not as a Ktana. Now, most Mefarshim, and the article believes, that the Chachamim and Rabbi Yehuda don't argue. Rabbi Yehuda agrees with the Chachamim. He's just explaining another case that the Chachamim would agree to. To me, it doesn't make sense, and I'll explain this more in Ian Ben. I think there is a machlokas legitimately between Rabbi Yehuda and the Rabbanan, and I'll explain the source of the machlokas. And you're what are they arguing about? Specifically, the case where she got married as a Ktana, and Nisalman as Garsha as a Ktana, and then she went back to her father's house, and then she took another when she's a Nara. Then she says, Konam Sheni Nena La'aba. I'm not going to get benefit, I'm not going to give benefit, I'm not going to help my father, or she says to her husband, your father, right? She makes a contingent if I make food for you. She has to make food for him. She does not have to help or benefit her father or her husband's father, but she makes her nether contingent on something she's obligated to do. Sheini nenes lecha. She says, I'm not going to give you benefit either in the bedroom or cook for you. She makes a contingent on doing something she doesn't have to do, right? If I make food for my father or your father, he's a yafer. In both cases, he's made for the dharma, even though, right, the second wed nether we understand because the actual isser is on the husband, so it's dvarim shebeino lebeina. However, the chiddush of the Mishnah, even in the first case, which is the isser is not a problem, but it's contingent on something which she's not allowed to do, so therefore he can be made for her because she'll likely, because she made an isser, she wants not to benefit her father or her father's father, so therefore she wants to do that. So therefore, since she wants to do that, she's probably it's gonna make it hard for her to cook for her husband, which is a problem. She's supposed to cook for her husband, and since she's gonna want to cook for her husband, so therefore, even a contingent upon that, she probably won't do it. So it's called Varam Shebeino Lebeina. He can be made for. The Gemara says, Tanya she'eni nenes la'abo lavicha, amani yosi alapicha. Tanya, wife is calling me. We'll see in a second what it is. Tanya, let's finish this here. Tanya she'eni nenes la'abo lavicha, amani yosi alapicha, v'nasan omer liyafer. She says, basically quoting from the Mishnah, right? I'm not going to benefit my father or your father in my do a picha. Rav Nasan omer liyafer. Rav Nasan says, he argues in our Mishnah. He said you can't be made for that. And we'll see why in the Gemara soon. Rav Nasan says lo yafer. Rav Nasan says he shouldn't be made for. The Chum Ram Yafer. The Chum say he could be made for. The Chum is the author of the Mishnah. Right? Rav Nasan is going to say we're going to learn the reason tomorrow. Is because he can't be made her before it took effect. The two la'anim in Yehudim, a second example, she said, I'm not going to have cohabit with any Jews ever. If I have relations with you. Again, she makes a contingency based on she's not allowed to do. She has to be together with her husband. Rabbi Nosson Amar Yafer, in the sense he can't be made for. The Chum Amar Yafer, the Chum say he can be made for. Again, Chum agree. Even a contingency is Dvarim Shebeino Lebeina. Rabbi Nosson says he can't be made for. We'll learn tomorrow because you can't be made for nether before it takes effect, and it didn't take effect yet. That's the conclusion of today's share. Stay tuned for Yonah Ben Sion, where we discuss this machlokas Rabbi Huda and the Rabbanan about Aktana, who is Nizalman as Garsha. Does she return to the house of her father in order to be made for Nedarim? I think it's a machlokas. I'll tell you why I think it's a machlokas and what the machlokas is. Yonah Ben Sion coming up next.